Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night with Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities Behind Black Business. And tonight, Doris Lewis, who is one of our co founders for Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities, one of our board members, and tonight there's a pressing issue around immigration, and Doris has been on a number of major networks, um, locally and internationally, Fox News, talking about what's happening in her community in regards to immigration. And so we wanted to talk about that tonight because immigration does have an impact on the United States and its economy at large, and it also has an impact on the Black community. And so that's what we want to talk about. So I want to thank you for coming tonight, Doris.
Well, thank you for having me. I think it's an issue that we must, as a community, discuss.
Absolutely.
We cannot continue to ignore this and allow politicians and ministers to tell us that we have a responsibility to take care of migrants. I refer to them as interlopers because they're in a place where they shouldn't be and where they're not wanted. So they can call it migrants, they can call it, asylum seekers. But as you and I have discussed, if anyone is the asylum seeker or asylum seekers, it should be us because we're losing everything that we fought for in this country, going back to prior to the civil rights movement and during the civil rights movement when we made a lot of gains. Those amenities, those things that we gained are being taken away from us. They're being shared by everyone now. And during the civil rights movement, affirmative action and things of that nature were primarily and specifically for Black people. And this is why we were on the streets doing what we were doing. We're losing all that.
And I know you were a part of the civil rights movement. You were there.
I
And so what were some specific gains that we fought for and that we got during
well,
that civil rights movement?
I'd just like to say that uh, the civil rights movement was not about integrating to be next to white people. The civil rights movement was about Black people having the right to, as I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, and I started my activism at the age of 14 uh, with the NAACP Youth Council under the tutelage of the leadership of Medgar Evers. So the movement was never about integrating just to be able to be next to white people. It was about making sure that we had access to public accommodations. Say, for example, a park. The parks were segregated in Jackson, but the park that we had, it was a beautiful park. It was a wonderful park. I don't think I
Mhm.
missed out on anything. But the fact was that Black people were paying taxes to maintain and to have these parks. And for us to not be able to go to any park that we wanted to go to, that was unconstitutional. It was not right because as citizens, if you pay taxes and you're taking care of various entities of a city, in this case the parks, we should have been able to go any place we wanted to, but we were not.
Mhm.
So when integration came about, that is one thing we gained.
Mhm.
If you want, we gain that, and if we being able to go to any store in downtown Jackson. Say, for example, if you wanted to go to Walgreens, you could go to Walgreens, but you couldn't
Mhm.
eat lunch at Walgreens. We were not allowed to eat lunch at Walgreens. It was only for whites. So that was another gain in terms of being able to go into any store, any restaurant, and eat wherever we wanted to eat. And at that time, Woolworth was very popular, but I couldn't go into Woolworth and sit down and get a Coca Cola or quote, as we refer to them. But here again, because of this segregated community, we had everything in the community that we needed or that we wanted, because there was the drugstore, and that drugstore reminded me of happy days. You know, we after school we'd go in and get a Coke or get a Coke float. So I never felt like I missed out on anything. But as far as public accommodations, being able to get on this city bus, you pay your fare, but then you got to go to the back of
Sit at the back.
the bus. White folks were
Hmm.
sitting in the front of the bus. So that was another game. Also, when it came to, the Greyhound buses, you still would have to go to the back of the bus, even though that was a federal line, but you still had to go back to the back of the bus. So those are some of the specific gains that we got out of that we gained from the civil rights movement. We couldn't go to the hotels downtown. But here again, we had our own Black Sumner's Hotel in Jackson, Mississippi, and I never felt like I missed anything. But that was another game. We could go to any hotel if you had the money to go there. So those were some of the specific gains of the civil rights movement.
And what was I think of two other areas, and one is employment. Well, actually, several areas I would like for you to address. One is employment. One was our education at the time, and then the other, uh, I'd like to talk about incarceration. You know, and what that was looking like at the time.
As far as employment, we had so many Black businesses in the community, and so a lot of the Black businesses employed Black people in the Black community. We had the cleaners, we had grocery stores, the mom and pop store. So there was employment in that respect, but also there were city jobs, some city jobs that Black people were able to get. And then as far as the schools were concerned, the schools were segregated, but everybody who worked in the schools were Black. The Black janitors, the cooks, all of the teachers were Black. Everybody was Black. The cooks in the high school and elementary schools, they were all Black. But again, there were some city jobs that we were able to get. A lot of some of my friends' parents were working the King Edward Hotel. That King Edward Hotel was the bastion of white supremacy, but they were cooks, they were butlers, and cooks and mainly butlers, and they cleaned the rooms, maids and janitors. They were able to work in those hotels. In fact, it was just Black people working in those capacities during that time. Uh,
Hmm.
and I addressed the school. Incarceration, there was not a large incarceration population in Jackson. We had the
Hmm.
there were some people, there were some people who were in jail, but it was small. And when I think in terms of a prison like Joliet, that was up in Parchment, which was the Delta part of Mississippi. And if you did some of the very serious crimes, a lot of the inmates were sent up to the Delta part of Mississippi for some of the serious crimes. But again, that incarceration rate was nothing like it is today. In fact, I mean, I hardly ever thought about anybody going to jail for any very, very serious crimes.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was nothing like it is today. But in Jackson today, I mean, it's just jails all over the state of Mississippi. They built so many jails. In fact, early on when they started building all the jails in around Jackson in the state of Mississippi, I was just appalled. I was appalled of the number of jails that had been built in the state of Mississippi. I mean, they're all over, and they're filled to capacity with our young men and our young women and our children.
And see, I know that the country, when we talk about immigration, the country benefits in ways in terms of bringing more immigrants into the country. They set up businesses. They supposedly creating new jobs and new innovations, paying taxes. Contributing to the economy, almost like a stimulus check, you know. And so I know some of those things are some reasons why people say, they're bringing so many people to this country, or why they have immigration. But then I could say during my lifetime, I guess, well, I won't say during my lifetime, but I guess if we look back from the 40s to the 80s, where so many black men um, had come to the North and gotten jobs, set up businesses, and their income was really increasing significantly, and they were able to do a lot more for their families and for their communities. But then it seems as though it was in the 80s when we had this wave of immigrants who came here. We had the Arabs and we had the Koreans that came into our community. And then when you look at what happened, as the incarceration increased, black people started losing their businesses, and so there's this rippling impact that these immigrants historically have had on our community, and we've seen all of that play out, even just right here in Chicago.
Well, today we're worse off today than we were 60 years ago. And it seems like during the 80s, that's when everything just started to decline for Black people. We started losing so much. We started losing businesses, the infiltration of others into our communities, as you just said, the Arabs, the Koreans, and after that, just about any and everybody is in our communities. And so we've lost, here in Chicago, we have a lot of Black businesses. Chicago was really thriving. In fact, Black people added to this flavor and to this culture with our music, with our jazz and blues and rock and roll. The 60s music. So we added so much to this culture here in Chicago. And then here comes the 80s, and that we know that's when all these drugs were dropped into the communities. And then you get the three strikes and you're out. And it's just been downhill ever since then. And it doesn't seem like we can regroup because we've had this invasion and this takeover of the Black community. And I have to point out and our politicians and our ministers, they've all participated in this, because I am constantly saying that there is no way this could have happened without Black politicians, Black ministers being complicit. It just could not have happened. Let's just take, Robert Taylor Holmes. You're talking about displacing 200,000 people, and they use crime just as they're using crime today. They use crime to justify and to tear down the housing developments between 51st Street and State on down to 22nd Street. And we bought into it because there was very little crime over there. Maybe 10% of the people were acting up or doing some things that they should not have been doing. But here again, that's when the drugs were put in there, and they could have solved it, but it was a plan, because when it comes to white supremacy, they have plans for 25 and 50 years out, and the plan was to take the land, just like the plan is today with bringing these immigrants and dumping them into the Black communities here in Chicago and in every city that has a Black mayor. This is where these immigrants are being dumped. And and, and, and you know how I've been on this immigration issue here in Chicago. We had no knowledge of these people being brought over here and placed and housed in the Lakeshore Hotel, which is literally right across the street from me, which is the Newport condominium. We had no knowledge of that. About a week, going on almost 2 weeks ago, I get this email from the alderman Yancey, Desmond Yancey, saying that he's going to have an emergency meeting at the promontory, which he did, and it was standing room only. And that's when he said that he found out about it 2 or 3 days before Brandon Johnson just made the decision. And as I have said to people, I did not go over there to ask questions. I went over there to be disruptive, and I was disrupting. I interrupted. I went there for that purpose because no one asked me a question before they made the decision, and so as a result of the stand that I took and standing up and saying I don't want them there, and I still don't want them there. They should not be here. You know, Hyde Park is an upscale, very peaceful, very quiet, very a community of very successful people. Here at Newport, you have people from all walks of life and every profession you can think of. A quiet neighborhood. A large percentage of the people here are senior citizens. We did not prepare ourselves and invest in this place to have to be living next door to a hotel where you have they they said 300, but he's put 375 interlopers over at this hotel who are being financed by the taxpayers.
Mhm.
That is what's so disturbing. That
And
is
then we have a homeless issue here.
according to Chicago Coalition Chicago Coalition on Homeless. There are 68,440 homeless people in Chicago.
Mm.
Guess what? 53% of them are Black. So this is why I have been so disturbed. The city, this man nor former mayors did anything about this serious homeless population. I mean, you have people from Vanderbilt, these prestigious universities who have done this research, and the purpose of the research and what they've been suggesting and saying is that the city needs to build housing that's affordable for people. And a lot of the homeless people, they're not all drug addicts. A lot of these people are working people who lost their jobs or work but cannot afford the rent. And then you have the mental illness. And under Rahm Emanuel, all of mental illness clinics
We
were.
did.
And then you have those on drugs. But here again, all of this is all of this has been deliberately done. This is by design. Black people couldn't create all these problems if we wanted to. It is about design. It is about running us off the land. And if we don't think that that's a fact and that is happening, then we have our heads stuck in the sand and refuse to come up to face the reality of what we're going to have to deal with. You've spent $200 million on people who are not citizens of this city, citizens of this country, but yet you get 53% of the homeless in Chicago who are Black. And as I speak, you have Black women sleeping under the viaduct right here at 47th Street. And remember a year and a half or so, when it was so cold, we
Hmm.
sub-zero weather. We up at 51st Street and Wentworth at that viaduct up there, where the interlopers are tonight, or the migrants are tonight. They it was under Lori Lightfoot, and she ordered them to go into that police station. They went there. The police put these homeless people out in the cold. And the next day, they went to that viaduct and they took their meager mementos, their pictures, and the few clothings that they had, and they threw them away. They threw them away. And then you're telling us we should be sympathetic to people who left their country on their own?
Hmm.
These people left their country. I
Hmm.
mean, they should be sent back. Go back to your country. fight your government as Black people have fought this government ever since we were dragged here. We have fought, we have resisted white supremacy. But now you bring them here because the Democratic Party understands now that Black people are very dissatisfied because we've been voting for the Democratic Party for the last 60 years. We have gotten symbols, but we haven't gotten any tangibles. We haven't gotten any money. We haven't gotten an executive order, an anti-black crime bill like Joe Biden put into place the minute he got in office, and it was because of Black people. If he hadn't carried South Carolina, he wouldn't be the president today. But because Black people in that state came out and voted for Joe Biden, he is the president today. He is the president today because of Black people, and he has not done one thing for us. And you know, Denise, I was listening. Eddie Reed sent me a copy of a copy of the video that they made of Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan was the congresswoman from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
29 years ago, Barbara Jordan was saying at that time, we need to fix the immigration policy. The
Right.
United States needs to fix it. And she said also at that time, they should not be allowed to come into the country because they are illegal. This was said 30 years ago. 30 years ago, this is what Barbara Jordan, the Congress, I think she was from the ninth district in Texas. This is what she was saying then. So you got almost, on Saturday, I saw some school buses dropping some more kids off over there. And another thing I think
And
is,
see, if you mention school buses,
yeah,
you know, many of our children that have special needs require transportation
and
and
can't
have
get it.
not been receiving the transportation that services that they're supposed to be receiving.
So all of the $200 million, all of this money that they should be using to upgrade the school system. The schools in the Black community are just it's abysmal. They're very poor. The academic programs have just about faded away. Extracurricular activities, and as we were saying earlier tonight, Stacy Gates Davis, the president of Chicago Teachers Union, she decided to put her son into a private school because the public school in her area is the pits, is
Mhm.
the absolute pits. But yet you're bringing people who are not citizens. You're using our tax dollars to make sure their children are going to school, and what they're doing, they're bringing in everybody, Spanish speaking people, because you don't have a lot of Spanish speaking people in the public school system. So they're bringing people in to help translate, whatever is going on in the school. So again, these are resources that they're robbing us of to take care of people who are not citizens. Our
So,
taxes.
also, Doris, even prior to this whole immigration push, when you look in our communities, the other ethnic groups have been getting dollars to build schools.
Absolutely.
We have
Absolutely.
the Uno schools,
Yeah,
the schools in Chinatown,
right.
and we are not, our schools are not getting the bare necessities.
And they have special programs set up for Hispanics, for the Asians that we cannot even touch. We cannot even touch that money. So here again, money that should be going to help homeless people, homeless Black people, homeless Chicagoans. There are many veterans who are homeless, people who have fought in these wars so that we can have the so-called freedom that we, democracy, so-called, that we're supposed to have, but yet they don't have a place for them to live. It is wrong. It is criminal. It's immoral. And what Brandon Johnson did was insensitive. He showed no sensitivity to the Black community, to Black people in this city. And they're still coming in. And as we've discussed, they're talking about putting them in tents And so, where are these tents going to be placed? These tents are going to be placed all over the south side of Chicago and the west side of Chicago. He didn't put them in the hotel up there on North Lakeshore Drive. He didn't put them up there around Walton and Oak Street where these rich white people live. He didn't do that. He dumped them here in this upper middle class community of Hyde Park, where you have a large percentage of Black people. And in this case, right across the street from the hotel is the Newport condominium. And most of the people who are in the Newport condominium are Black. Most of them are Black. So this man showed no sensitivity. And when he got in office, he didn't visit a Roosevelt Road and Interstate 290 where there's a tent city, a little town of Black
Mhm.
women in tents. He didn't go down there and get them and bring them over here to the Lakeshore Hotel and pay for their food, their clothing, their utilities, everything. These people are living on prime property right on Lakeshore Drive, looking out at this beautiful Lake Michigan at no cost to them. And they are a menace around here. I mean, they're panhandling, they're begging people, they're stopping people, asking for money. And when you don't give them anything, they get an attitude. They're nasty, they're arrogant. These are not your best and brightest who are coming from these countries. Some of these people are criminals, they're drug dealers, they're prostitutes. Every night, they sit outside over there and you smoking dope. You can smell whatever they're smoking 2 blocks away. A friend of mine who lives far south, she said every time she comes out of her home, there's young women out there prostituting. And they don't want to talk about the crime that they're committing. A friend of mine who lives in North Kenwood, he said they're panhandling over there. They're going through their garbage. They're coming up on their property, which is against the law. Loitering and trespassing is illegal in this city, but those laws are not being enforced. In fact, I'm thinking about filing an ordinance, I mean, an injunction, because they're coming onto our property. This is private property. They're trespassing. They're loitering, and you call the police. They may or may not come. This past Saturday night, I'm back and forth with the police trying to get them out here to look into what was going on. Someone told me they finally came because I stood downstairs for 10 or 15 minutes waiting for them to come. And then I came back upstairs, came back home, and I got on the phone again and started calling. So they did. The security around here did say that they came, but they don't do anything.
And see, that's another problem um, with all of the violence that we have here in Chicago, with all of the crime, the carjackings, people getting attacked on the street, and the police seem to be um, helpless to do
They're
anything
they're
about
empathetic. They're
they're,
empathetic to
they're
them.
not able to do anything. And many of these people, there is a sense of entitlement. There's
Entitlement.
a sense of,
Entitlement.
demand. We constantly hear they just want to work. They just want a job. And I was listening to one of the individuals that were, when they were talking about putting them in the tents, he stated that you have a representation of people here from for over 8 different countries,
Right. In different
eight,
countries.
eight different countries, and there's often problems, in terms of them getting along. And so he was willing to go into a tent, but he's not willing to stay there. He doesn't want to keep his family there. He wants a job. He wants to make money. And I see them posturing with, we talk about these immigration laws and trying to increase the minimum wage to $15, and they have jobs supposedly waiting for them at the hospitals, in the restaurants, all the hospitality type of jobs. So in the hotels, they're waiting to hire these people.
Well, even now, they they're dominating those positions already. And as you know, these were positions that black men and women used to have. They're not hiring black men and women in these places. These people are already dominating those positions. And in some communities here in the city of Chicago, there's 50% unemployment.
Hmm.
When I walk outside, I see only people whose surnames, who have the Spanish surnames, working. I don't see black men and women working like I used to. I blame, and here again, I blame this on our politicians. I blame this on the mayor. When the mayor was running for when he was running for mayor, we had a contract for Chicago 2023. He refused to sign it, but he had an agenda for the immigrants. He had an agenda for the immigrants, but refused to sign this contract, which was about the various departments, police department, the Chicago public school system, the park district, and I broke down the percentages of black people working in each one of these departments. And so, well, say for example, with the Chicago Police Department, the Hispanics make up 21% of that department. Blacks make up only 12%. But Hispanics have only been in this country 30 to 35 years.
And there's also that group that are here illegally that have been working, of course, receiving, very low wages.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I believe they want to make that population
Mm-hmm.
legal. But we have a very large illegal
Illegal
population.
population,
Before
absolutely.
they started bringing them, across the
Mm-hmm.
border here and making these
Mm-hmm.
sanctuary cities,
Mm-hmm.
they were already here.
Mm-hmm. So where is this going to leave black people?
Hmm.
I am afraid the unemployment is going to get higher. How you cannot accommodate all of these people without neglecting your bo- uh, 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 native born Chicagoans, citizens of this country. You cannot do that. New York is a disaster. Chicago is a disaster, but they're not telling the truth. New York is a disaster. They have 100,000, 110,000 now. It's grown. And I was watching an interview earlier today, and it was very interesting. This man is a politician. I forget what office he's running from. But he said he does not, it is not a good idea to put out there that you can come here and work and you can get a visa, you can get a permit, you can be housed, fed and clothed and given extra money. He said because that is doing, it is enticing others to come in here who would not do it. And I said, never really thought about it like that, but it makes sense. They're just coming now. They're just coming because it's understood that when they come here, they're going to be taken care of.
Hmm.
They're going
They
to
have they have they have the American dream
have the American
in
dream.
their minds, and they want everything that they see everybody else
And
with.
that American dream for us is becoming an American nightmare. We are not fighting back. We in New York, particularly in those white suburbs, they are saying to that mayor, "We are not a sanctuary city, and you're not going to bring them here." They went to one area, Suffolk County, and the community came out in such large numbers until the interlopers or the migrants or whatever you want to call them, they left because these people are steadfast. They're saying you're not going to use our resources to take care of people who are not legal citizens when legal residents are in need. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Everything is just overwhelmed. Here in Chicago, the
Mhm.
hospitals are just overcrowded. Overcrowded. So
Really.
who is paying for this? The taxpayers of the city of Chicago. It is not fair. It is not right. They need to be sent back home. And I'm tired of black people, black ministers, black politicians. As Johnson said last night, we are going to have to make some sacrifices. Why in the hell do I have to make some sacrifices to accommodate people who are not legal when my people are sleeping on the streets, don't have food, don't have housing, don't have clothes, don't have access to education for their a proper education for their children, and you insult us by saying we have to make sacrifices? I worked for everything that I have. Black people have worked for what they have here in America, here in Chicago. Nobody has given black people anything. Everything that we have gotten in this country, we have had to fight for it.
And the impact to the Black community, unlike the country at large, where you say, okay, we're bringing people in here that will work, that's going to circulate dollars in the economy. You're bringing people in here that will set up businesses to hire people. They Black people are not the ones that are going to be hired.
No,
You know,
not at all.
that is not what happened when the Arabs and the Koreans came into the Black communities. They did not hire Black people. And when as they set up businesses, they actually ran many Black businesses out of business.
Hmm. I was reading an article, I forget the name, article last night, and they were talking about in the South Shore area. They're talking about the number of dollar stores. And
Hmm.
so, and these dollar stores, they're selling everything, but what they're selling in terms of food is not healthy for our people. You know, it's saturated with sugar and salt. So, and that's why you have the obesity problem. That's why you have the health problem that you have in some of the communities here in the black community. And they were saying because of the dollar stores, you cannot bring a business in that would serve healthy food because you got, there's so much competition. And
Hmm.
so they are afraid to come in and make that investment, even though they're looking at other ways in terms of how they can do it. But here again, Asians own all of these stores, but we don't. They're franchises, but black folks don't have one, not one. They're owned by Asians. These people are making a living. They don't give back into the community because they live in the suburbs. So black people are financing everybody.
And they also are building generational,
Generational wealth. And
leaving a legacy for their children.
mhm,
And you can already see that
yep.
because now their children are owning the gas stations. Their children are owning the convenience stores, the local grocery stores, the liquor stores, and they're nothing fancy, but they're new.
Hmm.
When you
And
go in
you,
them, they're new and they're clean and they got everything in there that mostly they have already marketed the Black community to know the types of items
and
they have in
before
their stores.
and before they come to this country, when they come to this country with the concept of opening a business, they are told go to the black community.
Mhm.
And we have to take responsibility too. The aldermen, the ministers, what businesses have we opened up? When we had these void, why didn't we fill that void in the community? It was a void. So anybody who's got some money can come in and buy the property or buy the building. They come in and set up shop. Why didn't we? Where is the economic agenda and plan for from black politicians, from the minister? Where is your economic development plan for the black community? What are we
And
doing?
and that is not something that is presented
No, no,
during the elections in
no,
terms of what their strategy
no.
and the plan is. And so often, unfortunately, when our politicians get in office and people do come and say, "How can I help?" That this is what we would like to see done. Um, they are very dismissive. They become very dismissive. and in some instances, very arrogant and belligerent in terms of responding to what the community is asking for.
And Denise, even with our business, RRGBC, we have been able to help a couple of businesses that the aldermen should have been helping.
Mm-hmm.
But we got behind these people. We called City Hall. We called the alderman's office. And so, because a business cannot come into a ward unless the alderman okays it. So how is it that the black community, black wards are void of black businesses? How is it that you have the Asians, the Arabs, and the with the ones who own the service stations? They are the not the Palestinians, but I can't think of the ethnic group. But anyway, they're owned by everybody but us. So where is the plan?
And on the flip side, okay, just like you're fighting for the people, you're saying, where's the plan? Where's the plan to maintain the black businesses that are already here?
And where is the plan to maintain what we fought for?
Mhm.
Because we're losing it every day. So then, what does that say? We are not leaving anything for our young people. What are they going to turn to? Like you spoke about the Arabs. Well, they're all going to school together now. But now the Arab children can talk about their parents owning the grocery store, and
Mhm.
the grocery store that they own, it is black people that are taking care of them, so they can pass something on to their children, but we can't pass anything on to our children. Our children don't even think about business, going into business now, because they don't see it. It's not there for them to see. So we have to again take responsibility for what we have not done, and I put it back on the politicians, and I put it back on the ministers. And also in this article, they talk about the number of churches, storefront churches, no businesses, just storefront churches where ministers are pimping the community because they're not giving anything back. They're pimping our people. Everybody is treating the black community like it's a whore. And the black community is not fighting back. They're not fighting back when it comes to these interlopers, migrants, immigrants, because you have ministers, you have politicians, and you have people on WVON saying, well, this is what we do. We have to take care of people. Nonsense. Nonsense.
And see, I think a lot of this, not to down the church, but the philosophy, the what they're telling people, what they're teaching people in our churches is this this
Passive.
passiveness,
The church,
not to do anything, and not to worry about it.
yeah, Jesus is going to take care of it.
Going to take care of it. Hmm.
And the church that I grew up under, the church that Richard Allen, these were builders of the community. They built the community. Black politicians today, if they are not following that agenda of the Democratic Party, they do not have an original thought in their heads. They don't have, they're not creative at all. They're on this script that the Democratic Party has put out there for them, and that is what they're doing. When you look at Brandon Johnson, he doesn't have any creativity about him. He doesn't have he doesn't seem to know what to hell to do. But he really told us when he was running. But here again, well, I fell for it. Here's a black man, he's a family man. When I knew, I put the contract in his hands, but I fell. A young black man, he's a family man. Well, he has sold black people out left and right. He is not worth a plug penny. He does not need to be in that seat. So my position going forward with black politicians, is I'm going to try to be your number one enemy. Desmond Yancey, you should still be working to get these people out of Hyde Park. That is your responsibility to look out for the constituents in the Fifth Ward. 54, there are 54,000 people in the Fifth Ward. Most of them are black. 64% of the people in the Fifth Ward are black constituents. So Desmond Yancey, where's your plan? So
And then you also have the issue around the Obama
the
Center
Obama Center.
that is common, and the concerns for members of the Black community in terms of their businesses, in terms of homes, homeowners, in terms of renters, in terms of our schools. You know, how is this going to impact the Black community?
Well,
What is the plan again to sustain
the black community.
what we have and to begin to properly resource what we have?
Well, when the Obama Center was being thought about, was being planned, Obama signed the a community benefit agreement with the Hispanics, but he didn't sign it with black folks.
No.
Period. Black politicians, black leadership, they have not looked out for black people.
Mhm.
So, 10 or 15 years from now, I would not be surprised if there are no black people on the lakefront. Because when you look at where the Obama Center, and that came out at Yancey's meeting, there were several women there talking about their mothers losing their homes due to taxes. Because the taxes are going up and they're going to go up even higher. I mean, this area where they have put this Obama Center was a very vibrant area. The community utilized it. I mean, there were all kinds of activities going on in that area. The community has been shut out, closed out. It's not anything you can do down there now other than go to that Obama Center when it finally opens. If you go down there now, it's not a whole lot. I've maybe seen one or two black people working down there. Most of them are white or Hispanic. Again, jobs are being taken from us left and right. This is criminal. This is serious. And you're talking about crime. Well, when people cannot take care of their families, they're going to do whatever is necessary to take care of
Mhm.
their families. And I look at our young people, and yes, our young people, many of them are out of order. But I always think about what Dr. King said. He said, violence is the language of the unheard. No
Mhm.
one is listening to our young people. Many of them feel hopeless. Many of them don't even think that they have a future. And when people become hopeless like that, they do things that they should not do. Look at the parks in some parts of the black community. They're run down. They're pools with water in it and everything else you can find that's ugly to mildew and everything. They don't even have parks with working swimming pools. So when you create this kind of environment for people, it's going to be chaos. It's not going to be peace. It's not going to be safety. Then you're creating chaos, which is going to just it's going to explode. It's going to explode. And many of these immigrants now, these interlopers, they are attacking black people.
Mhm.
Over in Woodlawn, a woman had an altercation over there with some of them when she asked them not to throw their bottles and their cigarettes onto her property. They were very belligerent, very disrespectful. Who, again, when they put them over there in Jeanette Taylor's ward, and she's a joke because she didn't fight for the community. How can she fight for black people when she's on the immigration committee? That's a serious conflict of interest. Again, black leadership, black politicians who are working for everybody but Black constituents. That's what they're doing. They're on that agenda. You got 20 Black aldermen in the city council. They
Mhm.
can stop anything they want to. What does Yancey say? We don't have the votes. You got 20 if all of you would come together, but
Right.
you're so divided. You got 20, and if you can't get six more, then something is seriously wrong with all of you. You can stop anything that you want to stop down there because the Hispanics are going to need your support. But what are you doing? We don't have the vote. That's a lie. You just don't have any courage. They have no courage. They have no courage. They have no agenda. They have no vision for their own people. So Black people better wake up and get involved and start resisting like they're resisting in New York, in those suburbs. They are resisting and they are winning. Today I was looking at a piece in Cape Cod. That's up there around Martha's Vineyard. Well, Martha's Vineyard is the only place in America where they moved them out. They went there one day, the next day they were gone. Those are rich white people, and they were not going to have it, and they moved them away from there. Now, Cape Cod, they're trying to bring them to Cape Cod, but there is resistance by the white community in Cape Cod. You will not bring them here. We're not a sanctuary city. You're not going to use our resources to take care of people who are not even legal. We need these resources to take care of the people in our community, and that's what we need here in Chicago. We need those resources to take care of Black people.
When we talk about, when they talk about criminal acts, this is criminal.
It's immoral and it's criminal.
This is criminal. This has to be against our Constitution.
Yeah.
This has to be against our laws. It's almost like there's a takeover,
It is a it's a
a
hostile takeover.
hostile
It's
takeover
a
of
hostile
our
takeover.
government.
Brandon Johnson, this was a hostile takeover. He had no community meetings to get input from the people. It is a very knowledgeable attorney friend of mine told me that this was a hostile takeover. But you can't get lawyers to even take the case if you want to have them look into it legally. The Black lawyers are afraid because they don't want to get any backlash from the Hispanic or those people who support this. But they're not. And with these Hyde Park, I'm not surprised at the white folks over here, these so-called white liberals over here in Hyde Park. I'd rather sit down with the Ku Klux Klan than to sit down with some of them. At least the Ku Klux Klan is going to tell you the truth when they're lying. They're lying. They're
And
saying
see, the aldermen can negotiate. The case in point, the Fulton Market area, where they want to put a house like 1,500
mm-hmm,
in a building there, and the
mm-hmm,
alderman said, "Well, that building is not zoned for residential housing.
mm-hmm,
So you're going to have to change the zoning. And if you're going to do that, in order for the people in this community to be accepting of this, then you need to look at changing the zoning ordinances for the whole community,
community.
So he sees a benefit in a way that he's willing to negotiate. If you're going to bring them here, my people in my community have to get something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
this is what he says. And this is not what we hear
we
in
don't hear our aldermen
our,
doing
our
this.
aldermen speaking up for
We
us.
don't hear them negotiating anything.
No.
I have not heard Yancey talk about negotiating anything. All he says is that I didn't know about it. Well, you know about it now. So what are you doing? There should be an ongoing challenge to these people being in the Fifth Ward. Almost 400 people dumped right into the community. It has changed the landscape. It has changed the fabric. It has compromised everything over here. Everything has been compromised. And North Kenwood too. Like I said, some friends of mine were saying that they're panhandling. They're going through their garbage cans. They're coming up onto their property. Though that's against the law. So these people they are being lawless by design.
Hmm.
You have a police department that is not enforcing the law. And I mean, it's criminal. It's criminal, and this is on Brandon Johnson's watch. This is on Desmond Yancey's watch. This is on black aldermen who have these people in their communities. And stop telling black people we have a responsibility to take care of people we don't know a doggone thing about, who are not taxpayers, who are not citizens of this country, citizens of the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. We are not responsible. And black people, stop allowing these people to play that guilt trip with you.
Hmm.
You're not responsible for these people. We're barely making it ourselves. We can barely help take care of our own. I go to Whole Food 3 or 4 times a week. And what I see before I get into the store are homeless men. I do what I can to try to help out, but I can't take care of the homeless. We have resources. This city has money to take care of people who are in need. They're just not doing it because they're black. And this is white supremacy at its worst. This is racism and white supremacy. And black people, we, we're going to be the damaged good. And we're going to continue to lose what we have fought so hard to have in this country. No one has given us one dime. No one has given us a piece of fruit or pillowcase or pillow. Nothing. Everything that we've gotten in this country, we fought for it. Our ancestors fought for it. I am here because our ancestors, those of our ancestors who survived that Middle Passage, the descendants of enslaved Africans built America.
That's right.
America is rich because of black people. And then you bring some people over here who have not done one thing, not one thing, and you give them everything free. You take the black people, just not just black people, but the citizens of Chicago, taxpayers of Chicago. You take their money and you take care of people who should not be here, and you neglect the 68,440 homeless people in this city, black and white. But in this instance, 53% of them are black, but they're homeless white people as well. And
And as we saw today with the union, teachers union president who chose to send her child to a private
private
school
school,
because of the lack of resources put into the schools in the black community.
yeah, but
There's
but
no reason that should be happening.
and at the same time, under Rahm Emanuel's administration, you had those 20 black aldermen down there who allowed those schools to be closed. And now you're fighting to put illegal people in those very schools that were closed in the black community that should have never been closed. You're fighting to get them into the schools, but you didn't fight to keep those schools open for young black boys and girls.
That's right.
Black politicians, black ministers, Reverend Brazier over there, when the people did not want the people in the community, what did Lori Lightfoot do? She went to him and he jumped on board, defending the immigrants, the interlopers. What did they just do at Operation Push? This minister who is from Texas, he's from Texas, who's over Operation Rainbow Push now. He has a press conference on Saturday asking the federal government to send money here for the illegal immigrants. And we've got 53% of the homeless in this city are black people. How dare he? How dare Reverend Jackson even go along with that? None of you said anything about the homeless. I have not heard anyone be as angry and as passionate and as upset as I am about the homeless in Chicago.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And when they talk about it's getting cold and they have to have a place for them to stay, and our homeless people live in the cold,
All the time,
the
every day.
heat, all year round.
The mental ill, the
Hmm.
mental ill. I have a little friend. I call him my friend. He's homeless. He's been homeless for years. And whenever I see him, I try to give him a little money. But this young man has been on the streets for years. He's mentally ill. Mental illness in this city is serious. You're using the taxpayers' money to take care of people who should not be here, and we have mentally ill people on the streets of Chicago every day, right here in Chicago, because under Mom Emanuel, the clinics, the hospitals were closed down. There's a serious problem in Chicago that this mayor is not addressing, and former mayors did not address either. And it's going to get worse. And I'm saying to black people, you better fight back. You better stand up and fight back, and to try to hold on for what we fought for, because they're giving it away. They're giving it away. This is serious.
Well, Doris, I really wanted to give you opportunity. I know people have seen your anger about all of this and your the passion that you put in about all of this, and you've had a chance here tonight to explain where all of this is coming from. It's not some heartless cry against other people, but the way they're doing what they're doing and what they're doing is not right.
And it hurts me. I am really hurt. You know me well. I'm very hurt about what I'm seeing, and I'm scared for my people. I'm
Mhm.
scared.
Well, I want to thank you for coming and expressing your views. I want to thank you for what you do in the community. Since I met you, you've always been fighting for Black people, and you're right. You're right. I don't know what it's going to take
I know.
uh, to to make people wake up and let's put some pressure on these local officials, the people that are voting laws, legislation into place to cause some of this to happen.
And Denise, this system of white supremacy doesn't care about us being educated or having a little money. They're coming after us now.
Mhm.
They're coming after us. I thank you for hosting the show tonight and having.
Absolutely. Well, family, as you know, we're a nonprofit foundation, and we came about to try and do some things to support our communities. And we felt one of the best ways to do that was to support our Black businesses. And so we do feature a Black business on our podcast every week, and then we have topics that we discuss around Black business, and immigration is a topic that is around Black business here in Chicago. And so we want you to definitely look at supporting Black businesses. Why? Because Black businesses are going to hire Black people. They're going to contribute to Black causes. They serve as mentors for our children. They do business with other Black people. They give other Black entrepreneurs opportunities. And so it's only the right thing to do is what everyone else does, support their own. So we ask that you support our businesses. We're great proponents of our Black bookstores. We used to have 22 Black bookstores here in Chicago, and we were down to two, but we do have a resurgence of Black bookstores here in Chicago, and we feature a Black bookstore on our website every month. And this month, the bookstore is Sebastian's Dreams, located at 7259 South Crandon. You can go to sebastiansdreams.com or dial 773-701-8485. This is a mother of an autistic young man, and she started writing books, and she started a bookstore. She wants to create a community for her child. That's another population of children and individuals, adults as well, that are in our community that need our support. And so please, instead of going to Amazon, go to our Black owned bookstores. We have all of them listed on our website at rrgbc.org. And in particular, we want to give some special attention to Afriware right now because Afriware, which is located in Maywood, but Afriware has been very supportive of all that we do and many of the different businesses here in the Chicago area. And Afriware has a GoFundMe page. The goal is to raise $30,000, and we ask that you go to afriware.com and make a contribution to that GoFundMe because Afriware has done some great work in our community, disseminating some great books and programs for children and adults, and we want to keep Afriware afloat. So please support our Black bookstores and also the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. I notice Chase Bank is starting to put some money into the Black community, but the Southside Community Federal Credit Union has been here for over 20 years, serving the community, providing loans, car loans, house loans, personal loans, and giving financial literacy classes every Saturday to the community. They have a commitment to our community and have demonstrated that for over 20 years. Chase Banks made a lot of money off of the Black community. And now they're, because all of the conversation that is going on, now they want to make some contribution. But we need to support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. They're located at 55th and Garfield in the mall. So please support them. And for our book of the month, Sebastian's Dream, since they're our bookstore of the month, she's offering two books that she has written. Katie K plays Lady for a Day, and My Pops is Tops, a story about me and my dad. So these are some stories that give insight to the mind and the thinking and the hearts of an autistic individual. So I think you would find them an enjoyable read. All you have to do is go to rrgbc.org and subscribe, and you can become eligible to win those two books for this month. So also go to our website where you can make a donation to help our cause and purchase items from our online store. So again, Doris, I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for all of the work and the passion that you put into what you do. And I hope Doris has imparted some information tonight that's going to give somebody a little more courage to stand up and do what we need to have done in our communities to save our communities. Because all of these sanctuary cities are where the Black communities are going down, are being gentrified.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And let's stop talking about Jesus and God and do the work.
Hmm.
Do the work that Jesus would want us to do. Do the work that God wants us to do. We can't continue to talk about religion. You know, what does it say? Faith without what? Faith without work is dead. How does it go?
Hmm. Yeah, you're right. You're
Faith
right.
without work is dead. Let's do what God wants us to do.
Hmm.
This is injustice. This is injustice, and it's ungodlike. It's unJesus-like. So we talk about Jesus and God all the time. Let's do the work. God is not going to come down here on earth and protest. He
That's
put
right.
it in us.
That's right.
I don't do this on my own. I'm not doing this on my own. There's a power much greater than me
That's
that's
right.
pushing me to do what I do, and I just want to do God's work.
That's right. Reminds me of my grandmother used to always say, "Lord, help me today."
Uh-huh.
And we need help.
We really do.
Yes, we do. All right. Thank you, Doris.
Thank you, Denise.
All right. Good night, everyone.
night.